Hi everybody, welcome back to Flames Pyro Art for Beginners, and we're carrying on looking at the skulls project at the minute. When we left off last, we'd started looking at the eye sockets. So today, for a brief video, I thought I would show you what the next stage I would be doing, which if I was to time lapse it, would be to darken up the inside sockets of the eyes. Now, one area where many people may differ or go wrong with this stage is they want to go dark too quickly, and you turn your heat up on your pen that high that you lose control over what heat is being absorbed into the wood. And that is the last thing we want to do when we're creating pyrography, is lose control of what heat has been absorbed into the wood. We always want to have control over that. So I'm currently running at just under 3 on my Optima with my medium space shader. I'm looking now to tighten up and darken up areas of these eyes, because if you think about the skull, I mean, there's many different ways you can go about this. There's lots of little like channels and canals, you could call them, little roots that could go off the skull. But up at the very top here, right underneath the lid, you have to excuse me as I move the board around, we know that that is going to be coming from up inside the skull, and that's the darkest point. We don't want to get there all at once. We want to build our way to the right, like depth of shading, the tonal value. I know it's very tempting just to crank your pen up on the heat settings and just go dark immediately, but then you lose the opportunity to perhaps capture that perfect moment when you're creating your piece. There's always a perfect moment where you just capture that exact shading that you want, and if you have your heat setting too high, you can whiz by it and it's gone. So I always like to come at it from the lower end of heat. Yes, it takes me longer to create the pieces, but time is irrelevant, isn't it? If you're looking to create a really good realistic looking skull, then don't get hung up on time constraints and I want to get it done in a couple of days. It doesn't matter if it takes you a couple of weeks. If it's something you're really proud of at the end, then all that time has been worth it, hasn't it? I do tend to see that quite a lot with new pyrographers. I know I probably was guilty of it myself when I first embarked on this journey into pyrography. I would have my heat setting probably too high. I'm turning the board upside down now, because if you see here, we've got like a canal sort of step that we can add, which is right there on my pencil line that I've added, and it just adds another layer of I don't know what you'd call it, level of inside of the skull, but I can't think of any good terminology. There's all sorts of fantastic things you can do with skulls. Same on the other eye if you look. We've got the dark channel. Obviously, never having looked at a human skull in real life, up close for any extended time, I couldn't tell you exactly what all these bits are down the bottom. If I was going to frame lapse, time lapse a lot of this part of the project, I thought I would just show you a couple of minutes of what I'm looking to achieve now. Is I'm looking to capture some depth. I'm looking to make this skull look like it goes deeper. You know, you can look inside the skull and look right back there at the very back of it. I said all your values will change as the piece progresses, but by doing things on a lower heat, you may, like say, work on this little piece and try and capture the shape of the skull going there on one value, one like shading, and then realise you have to adjust the shading you've done on the eyes to a darker shade. So everything does evolve and change shading as we progress further and further with the skull. There's some great opportunities here for some steps, but let's follow this inside bone. See, yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to see properly on the camera, but my pencil lines are still there just above at the moment. I am slowly inching my way towards them. I want to keep them there for my mind's eye at the minute, so I can see, you know, the sort of dimensions and shape that I'm trying to create. Some pyrographers, we have a motto of burn low and slow. And what that means is we burn on a lower temperature and we layer away up to the final destination heat shading. If I cranked the pen up to like 5 or so now, it would just be burning all over the place. I mean, even on 3, for me it's just under 3, it's burning quite hot. Looks like whoever had done some of the artwork on these skulls wanted to capture some different looks in the eyes. So we'll follow it and see where it takes us. Patience and pyrography do go hand in hand. I mean, I could happily sit here for several hours working on the eyes. You know, that's time doesn't matter, it's just creating the very best realistic looking skull I possibly can produce. Hopefully you can see on the camera we're darkening up above, just underneath this top of the eye socket. You can see I'm using that 3/4 tip. This is where I was talking, you know, about heat bleed. If you're using 3/4 tip, you will get a little heat, like sort of bleeding below where your pen is actually sat, because it's like an iron shape. So unless you're using the very tip, you are going to get some excess heat coming into your wood. So that's why always come at it from the right side. You know, when you're looking at shading things up, you know, as you can see, I've got my pen on the inside of the socket, so nothing is touching the outer part of the skull that I don't want to burn. So I'm not getting any excess heat there, it's just nice clean wood still that hasn't had any shading. So that is another quite a good tip, I would say. Always move your board, make sure you come at things from the right side, i.e. that's it, your pen on the inside, and just gradually build your way to that look that you're going for. I'll switch you back, I'll switch over to time lapse in a minute as I continue darkening these eyes up, because you don't want to sit through a couple of hours of me experimenting and shading all this up. If you are burning along with me, we're at the stage now where all we're really focusing on is capturing the depth inside the eyes. Let's get a bit more depth going on now. Let's, you know, capture a bit more of it, get this skull really sunken in so you can see inside of it. So I'll just switch over to time lapse. While I do this bit, I'll slow the time lapse down so you can see what I've been doing with my skull. But you, like I said, we all have artistic license. You can do the interior of the eye sockets in whatever way you wish. There is no right or wrong way of creating art. There's just your own way, your own creative third eye, your imagination. Just follow your imagination and it will lead you to hopefully a brilliant looking skull at the end. As soon as we get round this nose area, there are some great little tears that we can capture there, so we'll look at them. That's going to be a bit more advanced pyrography as we start really adding the real depth and volume and tears to the piece. And then once we have finished messing about with these eyes for a while, we'll start beginning to shape the skull up as well. There's much more work to do on shaping of the skull. But you'll find yourself, I know I do a lot, you find yourself, you be working one area of whatever subject you're creating with your pyrography, and next thing you know you're off up there or down there. You know, you go off on different tangents. You focus on one area for a little while and then you end up moseying off somewhere else, and next thing you know you're down here on this amazing little area. You can capture more depth in here. In these parts under the cheekbones and eye socket, there's always this that sort of channel that runs off, and then it starts coming forward to the teeth a little, and the teeth is again another bit more advanced part of the pyrography that I will take you through once we get to that stage. So I hope you're all enjoying your pyrography. I know I'm gonna certainly enjoy doing these skulls. I just love Gothic art. It's my favourite form of art. I wish I could do it all day, every day. Like I said, I do mix up the themes that we do so we can broaden the depth of knowledge. But I hadn't burnt a skull in a while, so I thought, well, I've got 3 and be ambitious. So have a great day. Thank you for watching, and I will now switch you over to time lapse, and you can see the rest of these eye sockets getting sunken deeper into the skull. Okay, take care everybody, happy pyroing, and I will speak to you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. Hi everybody, welcome back. So we've been doing some time lapse of the eyes. Nowhere near finished them yet, but I'm at a stage now where I want to start looking at some of the other parts of the skull so I can start working out my tonal values. So I thought we'd have a little look at this nose together. Always wise to turn your pen on first. Again, I've just been and got a drink because it's a hot day today. So if you remember from video 1, I mentioned the skull always has this rim of bone around it, obviously with the thickness of the skull. So that is an area we sort of leave unburnt, and we capture the inside walls of the nose socket. Very much like the eyes, I've left a lot of the graphite still on at the moment, just so we can see what we're working on. But again, we don't want to rush our way to the depth of shading of this nose socket, because it has a bone that runs here up the middle, and that goes deeper back up into the skull. So it stands to reason. So let me just shut this bedroom door, otherwise it's going to keep slamming in the wind. Okay, sorry about that. So it has given us a few markers on this nose. I don't know what these little points are. Maybe little lighter areas. We'll follow them and see where they take us. And we know right under the absolute bridge of this nose socket is going to be dark. Because it's up above, coming out into the light, we can set that off quite dark. And hopefully, as you're learning with pyrography, a lot of the skill is blending those dark tones and gradually bringing them lighter and then darker again, maybe lighter again, and that's what gives you the effect of depth and shape. The blending of darker shading and lighter. So I'll just work away at this nose for a few minutes on camera. I'm going to have to switch the board around quite a lot because I want to burn from the inside. I don't want to touch that exterior bone socket. Now when you do your transfers, sometimes you don't get them quite right. See how it's quite thin, the bone, mine's quite thick. So I've obviously not transferred perfectly. That doesn't matter, you can always correct. Your transfers as you go. Your graphite, you can rub it out or whatever and reline it up once you've done your initial transfer, where you can't see what you've transferred until you do the reveal and peel off the top image. So you don't know if you're going to be absolutely spot on. Like I said, this bone starts out thick and then it thins away. Down here on the bottom rims would be set quite dark. To signify there is a change in depth. As you get more proficient with your pyrography pens, your hands will become a lot steadier and the pen becomes like sort of an extension of your brain, if you like. And when we inch away towards what we're looking to achieve, the results will start to reveal themselves slowly. But art, I've discovered, it goes through many stages. It goes through, obviously, when you just do your transfer and the like oh my god stage, when you've got your transfer lines out and starting a new project, which is always something I find very difficult, to actually sit and make a start on a new project. Once I get into it, I'm fine, but start with is always tricky. And then you have the ugly stage, where everything isn't quite put together yet, and then you get to the final stage where all of you, like jigsaw, all of the bits you've been working on all start coming together, and suddenly you've hopefully got an amazing piece of pyrography art sat in front of you. We're all our own worst critics, artists, I've found. I know I've done some pieces that my wife really liked and all I could see was my faults. So I think it goes with the territory with wanting to become a better artist. We seem to maybe not like our own work so much. And practice is a secret to anything, and practice and passion. You don't need to have studied for 5 years or 3 years or whatever at art school to be an artist. Everybody, even children doing doodles in class as art. Everybody can be an artist. Just depends if you get bitten by the bug for it and you start to really enjoy creating the art. Through the times we've been through, a lot of people hopefully picked up arts and crafts, you know, as we were all in lockdowns and we're still in this crazy world of restrictions and things changing all the time. One constant we can have is our art as an outlet, as a time of forgetting the world and it's just you, your pyrography pen, you put your YouTube, your music on, a film on, and listen to that in the background as you work. I just fell in love with it. Went on this journey. I saw all this amazing pyrography art that people were producing and I just thought I want to be able to produce art like that, and so I practiced and practiced and practiced for many hours. Don't get me wrong, I'm still not anywhere near the artist I want to get to. Whether any of us ever truly do become, you know, we reach the goal we set ourselves, because that's our own worst critics, is yet to be seen. Excuse my neighbour, if you heard that. Live on a crescent, it's called. It's like a little ex-council housing estate where we're all packed in semi-detached houses. It's a nice little community where neighbours do look out for each other. Don't know why it always seems to be that way, doesn't it? Let's say the poorer people seem to have more community than the super wealthy with the big houses that are miles away from, or you know, quite a distance away from the nearest neighbour. There's no sense of community around there, but in these estates we have some good little community. I'm not over committing on the darkness yet, because I know all my values are going to change. This will go darker, but I don't want to go there yet. Until I get all these other layers in place, I won't be able to set the final depth of tonal value of the inside of this nose. We can get it to a point where we start darkening up and giving the onlooker the perception that there's something deeper. This is what we call layering when we talk in the Facebook groups and things. Layering is building layer upon layer, just going over and over the wood and build your way to that depth. Resist the temptation to crank that dial up and rush. You're not giving yourself the opportunity then to create something really special. Then for around the bone to try and get some symmetry using the tip of the pen gently and inching my way to some sort of symmetry. Obviously you can add little, say, you know, little divots out of the skull, little cracks. And now we're slowly coming along with our skull. We're far from finished with the inside of the eyes, but it depends on if we want to have a dirty skull or a clean whitish skull. Just I love this little bit down here where there's this like sort of indentation, so you keep having to move my mat. Sure, I'm a nightmare to watch as I keep moving the board on you, but it is imperative that you move the board so you can get your pen at the right side of where you need to be burning. I apologise if I am all over the place. Now there's a little bit here on this side of the skull where we can really start to set this front bone. Slowly with the tip. Because we know what's behind this front eye socket is darker because it's wrapping back towards the back of the skull. And there are crack lines on it that we could introduce. I know one's going off. Quite jaggedy. You don't, if you're going to put cracks in the skull, don't make them straight lines. A crack wouldn't be a straight line, would it? It'd be more jaggedy edged. So that is where maybe an extra small space shader could come in handy. To make your shapes and your cracks in the skull not straight, not perfect straight lines. And then think about how it's going off at the end, how it's tailing off. How long have we been running for? So look, 26 minutes. I don't want to keep it too long because I know people's attention span starts to wane. But we're now starting to introduce the shaping of the skull. We know it's all pulling back that way. In here, inside of this line, I can use the tip to do it instead of coming at it from the other side for now. There's a little bit more of the shaping of the skull. Start taking down this bridge. Just dabbing at them at the minute, don't want to go too heavy-handed. Now I've kept my pen setting at just under 3. But I know by touching down really lightly you can alter the shading that you're getting of your pen by the pressure you apply. So sometimes you can get away with not having to turn your pen down, others you will. These are the tears now coming in of this, like the bridge of the nose. Down this skull, it's got a central sort of line. Just put it in very thinly. And turn the board around again so I can get back at this side. This is one of the areas where you could use like one of the very small writing tips to put your jaggedy, if you really wanted to get super detailed, to put your jagged edges in, you could use one of your very fine ball tips. The longer you leave that pen off the wood and you touch down, especially with the tip, you're going to get a deeper burn stroke. You know, you're going to get a hotter burn. Let me have a drink. Start introducing some of the shadowing. Only run for another 5 minutes today, and then I'll end the session. I mean, I could carry on all day burning and upload the whole day for you, but you wouldn't want to sit through the whole creation. I'd love you to be able to sit through the whole creation with me. I know people have got better things to do with their time. Just start putting that crack in there. Brother's brought the van back now after his day's work, so I shall end the session there. We'll resume the next session and start really building more of the shape of the skull. Hopefully your skull, if you are burning along, is coming along well. And any pointers or any tips that I've maybe given you in this video, hopefully I do hope they help at least, you know, a couple of people with the pyrography art and how to go about creating realistic pyrography art. So take care everybody, and I will see you in the next session in part 3 of the skull experiment. Okay, take care everybody, bye for now, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like or subscribe button to be notified of more content coming down the line as we really start to get some more depth and shape to this skull. Okay, look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care guys, bye.